Guys, I have a confession. I'm not good at making intro videos. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Cornertwist, and to my series Class of Sub 20. If this is your first time joining us, this series is to essentially help you get to be sub 20 as fast as possible. One thing I want to say is if you are joining back in from watching my previous two videos, congratulations. I just want to say that usually people, they just want to learn how to solve the cube and then they're done with it. But if you have the diligence to continue on in the series, I just want to say, give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a pat on the back, because good job to you. No, but seriously, that's what this channel is made for. It's for people who want to get faster at the cube. They find it challenging. Me, I'm just passionate about it. I like to find other people that are passionate about it too. And that's what drives me to make this content and to make this series for you guys. So yeah, I don't need this. So as a recap, in our last video, I talked about finger tricks and how you can implement them even at this early of a stage. Like you just learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, you can still use finger tricks, more so just to get used to doing them. You don't need finger tricks to be able to solve the cube at all. You don't even need them to do what we're going to be doing today, which is improving our cross solutions. But if you continue to implement good practice, I always say this, if you continue to implement good practices, even whenever you don't need them, as long as you know that you're going to need them later, you won't have to go back and relearn bad practices or fix bad practices. You're already going to have that knowledge and that muscle memory, so you won't even have to think about learning anything new. You're already going to have it in your arsenal, I guess. I'm really struggling to find my words today. Anyway, but now with that in mind, I think we can just get right into the video. Alright, so we're going to get our handy little thing. I don't know where it's going to pop up. It'll pop up here in a second. So we're going to talk about the main differences between what we have been doing and what we're going to be doing now. So before, we were just using the daisy method, which consisted of picking a color. So picking, let's say white is what we have been using, and then taking all of our white edge pieces and making them around the top part of the cube, which would be the opposite of white, so yellow. And that would look something like this, where it comes up with this daisy kind of color scheme. And the reason that we were doing that is because, for one, it's just easy to remember to make like a little flower. It helps for beginners. And two, it kind of gets you used to using the U layer to manipulate how the pieces move around the cube. Because normally, once you get more into the cube, you're going to notice that things on the D layer tend to not want to move so much once you start getting into it, especially in the method of CFOP, which is what we're working in. And I'll talk about that more in later videos. But yeah, so the biggest point of making a daisy shape like this is so that way we can go ahead and match up these center colors to their center caps and then slide them in easily, which we can accomplish using the U layer that spins around up here and be able to put them in like this. So the difference of what we have been doing and what we're going to be doing now is, instead of using the U layer to manipulate the pieces and put them into the bottom, we're still going to be doing that, but we're more so just going to be doing them one at a time rather than putting them all up at the top and then going from there. And you'll find that you'll be able to make more efficient solutions whenever you do it this way. And I'll just show you what I mean. So instead of bringing all these pieces up to the top like we've been doing, like this one, this one, this one, so they're all up in the top now. Imagine we just had a random scramble. Okay, and so we have this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. So I could just go ahead and take the one that's in the top layer right now and slide it over to meet the red and then bring it up to the top. I mean, bring it down to the bottom, you know what I mean. And then next we have the orange white cross piece that can do the same thing. Let's use a little double flick there, remember our finger tricks, and put it over top of the orange and then slide it down. So now we have two cross pieces in our a flower wasn't made, but it's fine because we're pretty much doing the same thing. We have another one that we can insert here, and now we're just missing one more piece, and it's here. And if you've just been doing the daisy method, you might get confused at this point and wonder, how do I go about this? They're just like little things extra that you'll have to learn to adapt to, because normally you would just put this up here and then slide it over blue, but now you've got a cross piece to worry about. You need to put it back. And that's really the only difference, is that you have to make sure that you put back your cross pieces, because now this is here. You can either insert with an F2, or you can leave it up there and then rotate and solve with the L2. It's up to you. So we're going to talk about these minor differences in making the cross that are going to help you ultimately to become more efficient. So I feel like most of that was pretty intuitive. We're just making a daisy cross, but one by one instead of multiple at a time. So I want to talk about this scenario right here, where normally, you would just not bring it up all the way, and you'd leave it off to the side like this, and then you would bring it up. And you can, like I just said just a minute ago, you can still do that. You can just bring it over, but then fix your cross piece. Or you can bring it all the way up to the top, like if it was already up here, like over here, for instance. The best way to do it is to just bring it over top of its color so you don't get confused, and then misalign it to one side or the other. So you can go back over here to the right, or you can go to the left. I'll just leave it here. And then now you can do what's called a 3-mover. You can bring this down to meet its color. You can slide it in with an F move, like that. But then notice that you messed up your cross piece over here. You're going to want to put it back. And that's very important. You never want to mess up your cross and then forget about it. Like if you're messing up your cross, make sure you're doing it with intent and then remembering to put it back, because you can't continue with a messed up cross. It's kind of like a foundation of a house. If you have a bad foundation, you can't build on it. So that's the same premise here. Now I want to talk about something that we've kind of talked about in the first video, which is relativity. Just to kind of recap on what relativity is, it's the term we use to identify how pieces are always going to be in the same placement on the cube all the time in relation to each other. And really this only applies to the center caps. You may have already noticed when doing your beginner solves that the yellow never is anywhere other than straight across from the white right here. Like if I were to just do a bunch of crazy stuff, even flip this layer around, blah, 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 blah. If you look at it, after all that, the white is still directly across from the yellow on the cube. And the same can be said for all these other colors. So blue is across from green, orange is across from red, yellow is across from white. So these are always going to remain constant. The reason that this is important is because you can build a cross using relativity and fix it all at the end. And it might sound confusing, but I'll show you what I mean. Okay, take for instance this positioning right here. Normally you would want to bring this up into the top layer and then maybe slide it over to meet its blue centerpiece and then put it in. But instead of doing that, let me propose this to you. So starting from this position, we have two pieces that are relative to each other. So this green right here is relative to the blue on the other side of the cube in the same way that this blue is relative to the green on the other side of the cube. So if you were to put both these down into the bottom layer where these would normally sit, like green beneath green, now they're kind of opposite to each other. So what happens if you do this? Well, if you continue the pattern and you put this orange underneath the red like this, so now you have three pieces that are kind of in the opposite spots of where they're supposed to be. And we continue this trend by pretending that this red is actually an orange. So remember what I said a minute ago, to deal with these oriented cases, you want to misalign them to one side and then implement that 3-mover like this to match it up, to slide it down, and then to remember to fix your cross piece. Now what we end up with is a cross that is actually fixed. The pieces aren't where they need to be. So if we just do that real quick, so put this blue underneath the blue center piece, you'll notice that all the other ones that were not in the correct positions before are now also in the right positions. That's what we can get out of relativity. You can put the pieces in the relative spots and then move them all together using the D layer. It is kind of a more advanced concept, but I feel like even if you don't get it right now, you can at least have that knowledge kind of floating around in your brain, and then maybe next time when it's presented to you, it'll click easier. Now, if that's too much, you can disregard what I'm talking about with relativity right now and just focus on making simple crosses on the D layer rather than doing the daisy cross method. So I'm going to continue showing you how to make these simple solutions with just random scrambles that you might find yourself getting. So we can look to find our crosspiece colors, our edges. So we have one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here. They're pretty much all in the bottom layer already. But just to keep things simple, we're going to go around the cube and find which ones are easiest. So right off the bat, this one's already done. We don't have to worry about it. Are these two easier than this one? They're all about the same, really. You're just going to pick one, and I'm going to pick this orange right here. Just want to bring it up into the top layer. That's always going to be the case if you're confused about what to do. Just bring it into the top layer, and then move it to match its centerpiece, like this, and then input it. And then that brought up the green, so we're just going to go around and put it on the green, and then move this over to the red, like that. And then now you have a completed cross. One thing I want to highlight that I'm doing is I'm finding the easiest solutions first, as to not create more work for myself. So if I see something that can already go into a spot, or that I can easily position to put into a spot, I'm just obviously going to do it. Like I see this blue right here, but in order to put it in, I'm going to have to bring it up to the top and then slide it over on top of blue when I already have this red one right here that can just be U2'd over, and then you can slide it in with an R2. And then next, just based off of this scenario, this blue is already ready to go in. I don't even need to bring it to the top because it's already connected to the blue. I can just go ahead and put it down like this. So just do yourself a favor and look at the cube and think about what are the easy solutions rather than just picking one thing to hyper focus on and then making a lot more work for yourself. And that can be said for anything in life, but it just works for this too. Okay, so well, at this point in the video, it's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to keep it brief and to give you something new to work on. Before the remainder of this video, if you want to keep watching and you feel like you need the practice, just stick around and we're going to do a couple example solves utilizing the finger tricks that we learned in the last video, and just talking about more in depth of what we learned in this video. Okay, right off the bat, we're going to look at our edge pieces. So we're looking for our white edge pieces. We got one here, we've got one here, we've got one here, and here. So the easiest one right off the bat is this red one, but it's done, obviously. It's connected to its cross color, so we're not going to worry about him. Next up, we could do this green one and U2 it over using a double flick. Then we can use our wrist to double flick that one into the green's placement. Next up, we have this edge piece right here that's the orange color, so we can bring it into the top layer and then move it out of the way, but remember to put back your cross piece. So we're going to go ahead and do that to make things easier on ourselves. And then we're going to turn the cube and we're going to line up the orange on top of the orange and then slide it in. And now you'll see that sometimes things just kind of work out, and this blue came to meet the blue, so we don't need to bring it into the top layer. You can just keep it right here and just slide it in. Okay, we're going to do 3 more of these. So this is example solve number 2. Right off the bat, I want to show you something real quick. So whenever you have pieces like this that are already connected to the cross, whenever you first look at the cube, it's possible that one of them, if not both of these, can go and fit underneath their respective colors. So in this case, not both of these are going to go into the right spots, one of them or the other. So we can just go ahead and move the D layer. Normally you don't do this because it messes up your cross, but you can go ahead and move the D layer since this is your first one, and go ahead and put that green underneath the green. This one's not right, but that's okay. We can fix it later. It makes things easier on ourselves when we have one that we can go ahead and put in. Next, we look around the cube and find our next easiest piece. The next ones, if there is not one already in the top layer that's oriented correctly, meaning that the blue is on the side and the white is on the top, if there's not already one that's connected to its own color on the side like this, the next easiest one would be the unoriented one on the top layer. So like I said before, you want to line up the color that's on the top here to the center cap, and then if it's misoriented like this, you want to misalign it to one side or the other, and then do the 3 mover. So you bring this side down to the center cap to meet it, you input it, and then normally you would slide this back if you had a cross piece down here, but I'm going to tell you what, there's not a cross piece down here, so you could just leave it in this position if you wanted to. But now we're going to have to get it back up. But anyways, because it's got the red cross piece that we need in it. So you can bring it up to the top. You can do a U2 flick. and then you can put it where it needs to go with an R2. We have our last cross piece. These three are put in. This last one is orange, so you need to do another U2 and put it in like this. All right, for this one, we're again using white cross, so we're looking for this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece. And for this one, I'm going to recommend that we do a relative cross solve. So we have a blue underneath the green here, and we have an orange underneath the red here. So whenever you have cool and warm colors, you can think about them like that. The warm colors are across from each other on the cube, so red is across from the orange, and then obviously green and blue are kind of cooler colors, like for winter or whatever. So in this case, we have they're underneath they're similar colors, but not their actual colors. So it's not orange with orange, it's orange with red. And since we have this kind of scheme, we can go ahead and fix orange underneath the red. And then this one is not in yet, but I'm going to show you something a little bit more advanced as well, is that you can actually insert this on the way over. So what I mean is you're going to want to bring the orange underneath the orange, and that's going to fix the blue as well. But before we do that, we're going to bring it back to its normal position, and halfway there, so right here, you might notice that on the other side of this orange, we can put this red in like that. And what happens is whenever we now complete bringing this orange over to the orange, the blue is fixed like it was before, but now the red is inserted and this green is ready to be slotted in like that. Okay, moving on to example number 4, let's look for our cross pieces. We have one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here. So we're just going to look for our easiest one, which would be this green here. So we're just going to go ahead and put it in. And now our easiest one would either be this red one or orange one. But let's think about this critically for a second, because if we were to put in this red, we'd have to get this orange back out. So why not just save ourselves the time and move it out of the way first, or even just put it over top of the orange, and then come back and do the red now. Because now we have this one ready and we can just input it with an R2. Finally, we have one more on the back here. This is a blue one, and we can just F2 it to get it on the top, and then now we're going to misalign it to the left side. Actually, I'll do it from the right just to show you that I'm not lying to you, and you can do it from this side as well. So with the remover from the right side, just looks like this. You line up the colors, you slide it in. We messed up our cross piece, so we got to put it back in. And now we have completed the cross. There was actually a lot to unpack here if you're just learning the cube or learning to do the cross this way for the first time. With the time that you have in between these videos being posted, I recommend that you just keep practicing at it. Keep watching the video over if there's something that you don't quite understand, to see how I do things. And really try to drill it down before we move on to the next things, because even though F12 doesn't utilize an improved cross, the next steps will. And I said it before, I'll say it again, that every time you can preemptively get better at something so that way you can be better at it already in the future, just go ahead and do it. And that's what this series is structured to do. I've structured it so that way everything that you've done in the past will build upon itself, so that you can get as quick as possible. So that's pretty much all I gotta say. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Give yourself a pat on the back.